You're a liar, Katy. That's my charge to you.
It's just, like, how dare he meet with this horrific group of people?
Of course it's going to be traumatic. Your kid comes out as trans. Okay, so straight away, they have a much heightened chance of themselves. Like, this person doesn't have any kids, let me remind you. It's hard enough being a parent. So you've got on one side people calling it child abuse if you affirm your kid. You've got people calling it child abuse on the other side if you don't affirm your kid.
Or like some of the things this group does is absolutely disgusting. So I was just reading this article.
She doesn't even know. You don't know anything about this. No. I'm just going to get annoyed and irritated if I continue to watch this video. So I'm going to look at something that's probably going to annoy me even more. We got Katy Montgomerie. Yay. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you like my stream. Make sure you check the links in my description. You can support me on Streamlabs. You can super chat. You can also listen to some music that I've made. You can buy some music that I've made. You can join my Discord. I'm monetized on Twitch if you want to support me there. He just repeats people's opinions and prejudice back to them and makes money off it. Yeah. So many people want an excuse to be able to take things out on someone. They want someone to blame, and they want it to be okay for them to take their frustrations out on those people. And I think as much as possible, if we really are to say that we're like leftists and like progressives and shit, it shouldn't be about finding someone to blame and taking your shit out on them. That seems nuts. Like, you characterize the right potentially for doing that to like immigrants and stuff like that. But then you just find a different group that you can do that to as well. I don't understand it. Anyway, I need to move on. So we've got Wes Streeting court meeting conversion therapy group. Wes Streeting being a current Labour politician, health minister, I believe, responsible for the banning of puberty blockers as used for trans children, possibly in exception for trans children in like clinical trials and stuff like that. Yeah, let's see what terrible conversion therapy group he has been meeting with. Let's have a look.
So there's been a revelation that Wes Streeting, who is the health secretary and also one of the media's favourite people.
Okay, we've got, first off, the source is Queer AF, bears mentioning, presumably not the most unbiased source ever. And we've got Bayswater. What is Bayswater? Let's just have a look, because I do not trust Katy Montgomerie further than I could throw her, which is not very far, presumably. Bayswater support for parents with trans-identified kids. So we offer parents whose children have a transgender identity somewhere to talk, share, be understood, wary of medical solutions to gender dysphoria, exploring gender roles as part of a normal child development. Is this even going to be conversion therapy, or is this just going to be people who want to see like an alternative, that don't necessarily want to rush in and fill their kid full of puberty blockers, get their stuff lopped off, and then they turn like 25 and they realize they made a massive mistake, and you're not getting grandkids, they're not getting kids. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, the problem is there's so much bias, there's so much politicization, there's so much like trying to force a certain perspective, if you know what I mean. That being that you have to medicalize your kid, you have to put them on this path, otherwise it's conversion therapy. That it makes sense that these things like exist, you know what I mean? What we've got about us. Parents decide to meet in person in Bayswater. It makes sense. Adopted a simple governing document. This being their constitution, I guess. Strictly for parents and guardians of children, young adults who identify as trans or non-binary. We felt the public discourse about gender distressed youth, often occupied by people who weren't directly impacted by the issue as we were, wanted parents to have a voice directly. But so far, it just seems like they're the other side of the coin to you. Not even the other side of the coin, because like, I think they're just trying to help like parents get a handle on this shit. And there's always going to be like two different sides to that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Erin Brewer, I've looked at her channel. There's a lot of interesting stuff, actually. I recommend looking up Erin Brewer on YouTube. Because there's a lot of problems with like medicalizing and transitioning young people. Like, anyone sane would have to accept that, no? So aims, provide parents, gender dysphoric, transgender, identifying children, young people. Let me just. Sorry, it's off the side because I know. I'll get good at my shit one day, I promise. Membership, it's for people who actually have a child like this, office and committee. This is all about meetings, finances. Right, there's nothing here. There's nothing here to suggest they're a conversion therapy group. Like, they're pushing a different narrative. But the problem is, it's been so narrativized in one particular direction. It's been so forced in one direction. I'm seeing nothing to suggest that this has got anything to do with conversion therapy, which I think is a quite strong term and has links to, like, gay people being fucking tortured, which is not the same as exploring other options when it comes to trans people. Just because you're saying, oh, you're trying to talk people out of being trans, well, that's a particular way of analyzing it. That's not necessarily what's actually going on. So calling this kind of thing conversion therapy is something I'm extremely suspicious of, shall we say.
In the Labour Party. Some people think he might be the next leader of the Labour Party, and he is a vile, lying piece of shit.
There we go. I haven't said one thing about Katy Montgomerie yet, even though I really don't like what she's all about. But she'll just front load it like this. This guy's a piece of shit. Is he a piece of shit? Why? She doesn't understand the other side of the equation. And we've got this biased as source, queer AF. Like, on a certain level, I feel like she must know what she's doing here. Like, that we're front-loading it so much. We want people to think that Wes Streeting's a bad guy, even without actually showing anything beyond a headline. It's propaganda, is what it is. And like someone like me, I'll get accused of that till the fucking cows come home. But I actually listen to what people are saying. I actually look at things. I actually try and show the truth. This feels already like I'm just getting my arm twisted up behind my back. He's a bad guy, isn't he? He's a bad guy. These people are pro-conversion therapy. What, you still don't think so? I'll twist your arm a bit harder. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like listening to this. Calling conversion therapy is just a manipulation tactic. Yeah, that's how it feels. But hey, listen, I've watched 20 seconds of this video. I've just accused her of poisoning the well quite badly. This, like, even using this is poisoning the well by itself. But I haven't really watched the video yet, so let's see.
That is a fact. Sue me for defamation, you vile, like,
Oh, it's a fact.
a piece of shit. But where's...
Okay. Katy Montgomerie, you're also a piece of shit. Sue me for defamation. And like, oh my God. Who was it that was like lecturing me on calling her Monty? Was it Olivia? Katy Montgomerie says some vile shit about other people. I would like to think maybe they can take some of that shit back, quite frankly. Not like take it back, like unsay it. Like they can take it coming from somewhere else. If they can say this kind of shit about someone, you know what I mean? And like I sometimes put comments on here because she's the kind of person that needs pushback necessarily. And I mean that when I say it. I'll get people being like, oh, you're just attacking her in the comment. Like, I'm not attacking. I'm trying to provide a different opinion. And she said in videos before, oh, I'd love people to show me like where I'm going wrong in my thinking. But then when you leave a comment trying to explain some of the issues she's having, like not being rude or anything like that, she'll leave one comment completely missing your point. And then you come back and correct her again. And then that's it. That's the whole thing. So she's not, to my mind, actually interested in hearing other perspectives.
Streeting is a horrible person, and he is...
Okay, we're still going. Nice.
Not left-wing.
Do you know him personally? Does he have to be left-wing when Labour is a big tent party? Probably comprises people that lean left, people in the centre, people that lean right even, that don't want to be with the Tories or Reform or something. Ridiculous.
At all in any sense. He shouldn't be in the Labour Party. But also, there's been this reveal here from We Are Queer AF. Wes Streeting met with and expressed sympathy for pro-conversion therapy parents group Bayswater. So this is just so infuriating. So they've got this handy little TLDR section at the top. Exclusive Queer AF has uncovered video footage of Health Secretary Wes Streeting saying he had met with Bayswater parents and expressed his sympathy for the traumatic experiences of families who have trans children. Earlier this year, an investigation exposed how parents in the group conduct...
Do you think she understands what they mean by that? Like, of course it's going to be traumatic. Your kid comes out as trans. Okay, so straight away, they have a much heightened chance of themselves. You now have a choice between affirming something that might fuck their lives up, that they might realize one day they've been made sterile, or they at the very least cannot breastfeed kids that they want to have. And who knows if they're going to still be able to have them, some of them. And you're going to get people on both sides of the fence giving you shit whatever the fuck you do. Of course that's difficult. Of course that is traumatic.
Conducted conversion therapy and advocated forms of abuse.
Earlier this year, an investigation exposed how the parents in their group conduct conversion therapy. All right, so I need to find this investigation. Let's just keep playing for a minute.
Abuse towards their children. The group was later invited to participate in the puberty blocker consultation. So the timeline of events is all trans people who had ever heard of Bayswater knew they were a load of bullshit. Then the media cottoned on and were like, hey, this group pushes for conversion.
I mean, you haven't shown any of that yet.
Conversion therapy. And then Wes Streeting invited them to discuss.
Not even showing that either. Like, oh my God.
The puberty blocker ban. And then this video happened. And then sometime later, this video's come out. So let's watch this video of lying dickhead, weasel, Wes Streeting.
Balance right.
See what I mean? Like, listen, I don't feel bad being rude about this person because this person is exceptionally rude about other people for the horrific crime of disagreeing with them. I don't know if this is a Bureau of Investigative Journalism. Parents group at the center of a rollback of trans rights. Okay, sure. Amendment to the schools bill, blah, 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 blah. Hang on. Monty has no empathy. I'm getting that impression. Yeah, that's true. What have we got? Greater transparency about what is taught in schools. Isn't that a good thing? Shouldn't the parents have like some idea of what your kids are being taught? Shouldn't that be their right, ideally? I have dysphoria, was trans for years. I remember referring to it as a mental illness in art class, and the entire class was yelling at me. Wow, shit. It kind of sucks so much how people that actually have gender dysphoria, people that are actually trans, get treated like transphobes and like traitors and shit for having certain perspectives. It really fucking sucks. Anyway, I hope you're good, Anonymous. Following day, argued that learning about trans identities was damaging to children. I agree. I think that we're putting ideas into kids' heads. A kid might decide that they're trans based on that when all they did was like play with fucking Ken dolls instead of Barbies as a kid. That might put them on a path that is not right for them. And like if they weren't taught about this trans stuff and just kind of got on with it and were just allowed to explore their own fucking gender expression in their own fucking way, might that not have happened? So yeah, potentially kids learning about trans identities can be damaging to them. They're now taking on something that raises their suicide risk. That alone, you know? Discovered without her knowledge. School had started the process of socially transitioning a child. Closely mirrored the request posted on their private channel on Discord. Like, so far, I agree with what Miriam Cates is saying here. Ooh, penis stone, great. Thanks to the efforts of Cates and her supporters, maybe soon be illegal for school to teach that children can be trans or non-binary. I don't see why that's a bad thing. I don't know why we're putting those ideas in kids' heads. I'm sorry. I don't think that's a good thing. All trans people already knew is kind of interesting manipulation. They're flattering some of the audience, also reinforcing their intuitions as being right no matter what. Yeah. And then what happens is like, you were always trans if you're trans, and then if you detransition, you were never trans, presumably. It's like that retroactive, oh, I'm right whatever happens, because you just always were what you say you are in the time. It doesn't make any sense. Rishi Sunak, blah, blah, blah. I'm not really seeing the problem so far. One of the most contested issues in UK politics. Well, so yeah, there's two sides, and there's a lot of division on this. Yeah, true. Fucking hell. CBIJ's posts on Bayswater online, describing how they destroyed their kids' possessions. I'm not necessarily going to agree. Sent them to conversion therapy. What do you mean by conversion therapy? You have to explain this. You can't just say conversion therapy. What do they... Like, when it comes to what people are saying, like how these parents are dealing with their trans kids, yeah, they're probably going to make mistakes. First off, being a parent is not easy. Do you think Katy Montgomerie has any kids? Of course she fucking doesn't. None of these people ever do. So, like, I don't know. If I looked at this, yeah, there's probably plenty of things I'd be like, geez, I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. But I also understand that the parents are in an incredibly awkward position. It's incredibly difficult, presumably, especially if you knew nothing about being trans whatsoever. Suddenly your kid comes home and they're trans. And now what? They want their whole body to be changed? They are at a higher risk of suicide necessarily? They're going to now experience all this like bullying and all this other shit? It's not easy. And I'm not seeing any acknowledgement of that. You know what I mean? Friends in high places, blah, blah, blah. Abortion access, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, more divisive issues, quite frankly. Ending no-fault divorce. I mean, is the counterpoint not maybe take marriage a bit more seriously? Need to get parents testing me. I agree with most of what's going on so far. I agree with most of it. What am I supposed to say? Legislation to ban conversion therapy would not protect trans people. Well, what conversion therapy is happening in the country? Have we got anything showing? Like, what conversion therapy? Like, what people say when they advocate for this, like, banning conversion therapy, they never actually say what kind of conversion therapy is happening beyond, like, explorative therapy, beyond just, like, trying to get to the root of some of the other mental illnesses that a person might have before transitioning them, which doesn't really happen. I didn't have any of that. They wanted to check that I wasn't schizophrenic or bipolar. I'm not really either of those things. I have plenty of other shit wrong with me, though. And none of that mattered either. You know what I mean? If you look in the WPATH files, like in America, they'll treat almost anyone. They'll treat kids with DID. They'll say, oh, just get the consent of every alter that this person has. Bearing in mind, we're talking about like a TikTokized version of a contested issue in the first place. And we're kind of tacitly, we're supporting that even. Oh, look, we've got Cal Horton, a research fellow in applied trans studies, trans themselves, by the way, biased, Oxford Brookes University. Don't get that confused with Oxford University, not the same place. Many cities in this country have more than one university. Oxford Brookes has nothing to do with Oxford University. Veiled language, so conspiracy theories. I don't take this Cal Horton person seriously. They were annoyed that their research didn't get used in the cast review, but what I looked of their research, it was very politicized, not really worth anything of substance. Maybe I'll do a deep dive one day on this Cal Horton person. I'm just Section 28 reborn, so we're linking it to like older stuff. That's not an argument. I'm sorry. You can say that it's the same thing, but like, I don't know. There seems to be new reasons as to why some of this might be necessary again. Forced out of social transition. You shouldn't be socially transitioning your child puts them on the path. Even socially transitioning loads the dice instantly. You can say it's fully reversible. Yeah, it is. You can just change your name back. But even then, how many kids are going to do that? They change their name for 2 years, call themselves a boy, decide it's not right for them. How embarrassing it's going to be having to come back. You know what I mean? I'm not blown away by this at all, quite frankly. Trans voices. Of course, it's trans plus voices. We're just pushing a different kind of bias. I'm not impressed by this article at all.
Is really important. People can see in Labour's manifesto the commitment to an inclusive conversion therapy ban, also unequivocal support for the cast review too.
Straight away, straight in there, he's like, yeah, we're going to do an inclusive conversion therapy ban. And we also love the cast review. We love it here. We love trans children.
Cast review has got nothing to do with conversion therapy.
We're going to take healthcare away from everyone, override what the scientists and experts are saying.
Comparing it to Section 28 is also completely disingenuous. If you had more info, I'd be interested. I need to look into Section 28 as well. It's not something I really know too much about.
Fucked. We're going to do this right-wing total sham review, which has been pulled apart by the international medical community.
Okay, bro. Okay, sure. Sure thing. Whatever you say. Most of the conclusions or suggestions from the cast review, if not all of them, are very sensible. There's probably some that I disagree with. overall they want to improve trans care and try and make it so that we're actually treating the right people, which should be a good thing to anyone. Oh, hi, Mikhail. I hope you're good. Hi, Bacon Sani Geddon.
Which I think is an evidence-based,
False.
well-researched,
False.
well-considered.
False.
Yeah, she's just saying all this is false, but showing nothing. Like, your opinion on the cast review is A, politicized, and B, based on other people's shit that you're not showing. Like, of course, an issue like trans, you're going to have part of the medical community that's going to go against something like the cast review. But like, you'd have to actually look at the shit that they're saying. And half of them, they're just going on about how fucking Hillary Cass met with someone who was in Ron DeSantis' fucking orbit or something.
Bullshit.
And if we get those recommendations fully implemented,
And she like grins. She knows. You know. Katy Montgomerie, you fucking know. Okay? You know.
evidence-based,
False.
well-researched,
False.
well-considered.
Bullshit.
And she's like grinning.
And if we get those
This is about posturing. This has got nothing to do with the truth for you. It's about posturing. It's about propagandizing.
recommendations fully implemented, I think it will be transformational, actually.
Well, if you got the recommendations fully implemented, then you wouldn't be able to do a conversion therapy ban, would you?
For
What does that even mean? Where does the cast review advocate for conversion therapy of trans people? It doesn't. I've read it. What am I supposed to do? I've read the fucking thing. None of them can actually explain what conversion therapy is going on in the UK for like trans people. Like, why don't we fucking look it up? Like, what goes on in this country? UK conversion therapy ban without trans UK, whatever. Amnesty International. They're called therapy, blah, blah, blah. It's an abhorrent practice, yes, but does it happen in this country? Where does it happen? Or are we just lumping things in conversion therapy because it's a loaded term? Because things like Section 28 was homophobic, Thatcher era legislation, but it's dishonest to comparing it to banning gendered ideology. Section 28 also censored theatre and all kinds of things. Yeah, there's different reasons now as to why those kind of things exist. You know what I mean? Maybe there's comparisons you can make, but you can't, when you compare it to that, you're comparing to something that existed in a different time. It's not the fucking 80s anymore. Katy Montgomerie wasn't alive in the 80s, nor was I. You know what I mean? You have to kind of look at it in today's climate. If all you do is compare it to things that happened beforehand, you're not paying attention to the different climate that things happen in. And that seems like a massive oversight. Okay, this doesn't explain. Stonewall, Scotland. Wow. Prevalence of conversion therapy. 5% of respondents. When is this from? 2021. Fair enough. National LGBT survey. Yikes. Sorry, I might be mixing it up with things like the trans survey they do in the US, which I think 1 year was ran by that Josie Calabaro person who is nuts. 2% had undergone conversion therapy. So what kind? What kind of conversion therapy? What kinds are there that happen in this country? There is no representative data to the extent of conversion therapy. So is it just people claiming that they've undergone it, but they don't even know what kind it is? Or they're not saying what kind it is? So what if people are lying? I don't know what I'm supposed to get from this. Every time. Got mermaids, I don't trust them. Further than I could throw them. Conversion therapy. I went through conversion therapy. No trans person should face that torture again. I hate news sites. Coffee morning for Catholics. Oh, so we're talking about like Christian stuff straight away. It'll have nothing to do with anything to do with the cast review. Would have nothing to do with things that the government would be implementing. We're talking about like Catholicism already. Yeah, parish priests. Weekend retreats run by a commune. That's got nothing to do with like anything the cast review would be pushing. And no, I don't think conversion therapy is good. I don't think you should send someone off to a retreat if they're gay or trans to try and get the trans out of you. But that's not the same as things like therapy. Okay, listen. I don't have all day.
Young people and their families who've really struggled.
And again, like this, it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, well, we're doing the thing, but also we're doing the terrible transphobic things. Like, yeah, this is, you know, we're kind of.
You didn't say any of that. We're doing the terrible transphobic thing. It's so easy, man. It's so easy. Like, I could sit here and say, oh, you just want to transition kids so you can fuck them. And then everything you say, well, that's just in service of you wanting to fuck kids because you want to transition them and then fuck them. You know what I mean? Do I actually think that? No, not really. I don't think Katy Montgomerie is a pedophile, believe it or not. But this is just, it's the worst faith possible. You've essentialized what you think red streeting is in your head. And now everything that he says, you just bring it back to this essentialization. Oh yeah, but you're transphobic and you want to do the bad trans thing that's going to convert all the trans people back to, but there's no facts to back any of it up.
I want to help young people, but also their families who struggle with them existing.
Families who've really struggled with these issues, who are stuck on waiting lists.
And she doesn't understand the parent's perspective. She doesn't understand the position that is being put in. God, my views are fucking terrible today. Anyway, make sure you like the stream. Hey, check the stream out. Like the stream. Check the links in my description. Thank you.
Who are struggling to get access to care, and in some cases have often felt cut out of the conversation. I think particularly families, having met with Bayswater parents, I think that's been a...
Shaking her head. Like, I don't know, man. It sounds like things are happening in schools without the parents' knowledge. Is that what he's referring to? But you just make a snap judgment.
Goes far, say, traumatic experience with some of those families, and that's really stuck with me.
It's just, like, how dare he meet with this horrific group of people who exist purely to try and...
I think this sounds like a joke. This sounds like she's putting this on. Does she even think this? Who are this horrific group? Have you got any research on them? Have you even looked at their website? Have you looked at anything? Because I have, and I don't know what's horrific about them. I think they probably just have a difference in perspective to you. Because you want to fuck kids. That's a joke. That's a joke.
It's just, like, how dare he meet with this horrific group of people who...
She doesn't even sound convincingly angry. This sounds like an act. It sounds like you're propagandizing and you know it. You're a liar, Katy. That's my charge to you. I joke about you saying that you just want to fuck kids. I don't actually think that you want to fuck kids. I'm being clear now. You're not a pedophile, as far as I know. But I think you're a liar. And I think you know that you're lying. And you're just twisting it up into this version that you can sell to people so that people think that this is transphobic. When it's not even about fucking transphobia.
Exist purely to try and stop their trans kid from...
How dare he do this? Like, yeah, fuck off, bro. You know you're lying. You know it.
Having a happy life. And just, like...
Having a happy life. Jesus Christ. That's why 41% of us try and kill ourselves, yeah? Yeah?
To say that people feel cut out of the conversation. And then he met with all of the gender critical groups and Bayswater and all these other bullshit pro-conversion therapy groups and didn't meet with the trans kids he's affecting. Totally did not give a fuck at all. And then just...
Not even bothering to try and understand what he's saying. Just... making shit up. Why is she a theatre kid? I don't think she's a theatre kid. This person, I don't know, they like heavy metal music and sweep picking on the guitar, which, hey, it's not something I can do. I can play guitar, but I can't do that kind of thing. Fair play to her. It's probably not easy to do. I don't know if this person's a theatre kid. And if they are, then their acting is fucking abysmal. I'm convinced that this person knows that they're like propagandizing and lying and they don't actually know anything about what they're talking about. I'm a layman myself, for sure. And she'll admit the same thing, that she is a layman. But the difference is I at least look at things. And I was getting at it's very theatre actually. Ah, okay, right.
Describes the experiences of family who have a trans kid as traumatic, but not these poor trans kids, you know, some cases very young, who have a family who wants to put them through conversion therapy.
Who are you talking about? What conversion therapy, which families? And how much of it is like weird religious shit that's got nothing to do with the government?
Like, they're actually experiencing real trauma. If you're...
Oh, the parents, they're not getting real trauma. Like, the difficulty in trying to deal with your kid being trans. Yeah, fuck that shit. The trans kid has the real trauma. Okay, amazing. Wow. Haven't had to live through getting a job and having to make it by themselves. They've got the real trauma. Why? Because they identify differently to what their body is. Yeah, it can be difficult. Yeah, it can be very tough not liking the body that you're born in. But to write off parents like this for an obviously self-serving reason, I think is a bit disgusting, actually. You have to be able to see both perspectives, and you can't. That's why you'll read something like Queer AF, uncritically accept everything that's here, accept their framing of this Bayswater parent support group, and not listen to the other side, not speak to the other side. Listen to what Wes Streeting says, and just every 10 seconds say, well, provide the worst faith interpretation of what he's saying possible. It's bullshit. You know it's bullshit. I know that you know it's bullshit.
Your kid comes out as LGBT, your kid comes out as gay or trans, and you feel bad. That isn't actual trauma for you. Like,
how would you possibly know? How could you possibly fucking understand that? Because they have to make a decision now, and they don't know which of those decisions is going to fuck their kid up. Because if they're not actually trans, bearing in mind plenty of kids actually do desist, if they just go through their natural puberty, how do you know? You don't know which decision you're going to make. It's hard enough being a parent. Like, this person doesn't have any kids, let me remind you. It's hard enough being a parent, knowing that all sorts of things you do might fuck your kid's life up in some tiny way or other. And this is like quite a big thing. But you just want to say, fuck the parents. This is disgusting.
you might feel stressed, you might not understand, you might take some time to come around to it. Fine. But it's not trauma in the sense that being pushed through conversion therapy, which is...
What was it? We looked at a thing that said like 5% of kids were. Or 5% of like LGBT people. So not very many of them are even pushed through conversion therapy. And we haven't shown how this Bayswater parent support group has anything to do with conversion therapy.
Torture. Like some of the things this group does is absolutely disgusting. So I was just reading this article.
She doesn't even know. You don't know anything about this. You don't know anything about this. What are you fucking talking about it? You liar. You bullshit artist. Holy shit.
Perhaps it is in this one. Or maybe it's in this one. Right, yeah. So parents in the group were engaged in anti-trans conversion practices on their children, as detailed in the private online forum. Some went as far as describing sending their children to non-affirming therapists, aka...
That's not conversion therapy. Non-affirming therapists. That isn't conversion therapy. That's just not affirming their shit. Affirmation is just one model of dealing with gender dysphoria. But because we've made it into an identity and made it into practically a religious fucking belief, that's not conversion therapy. And like, what's actually happening with these therapists? You know what I mean? You don't know.
Gender critical therapists or conversion therapists
gender critical therapy. It doesn't say any of that. You haven't looked at any of this.
Them off from their supportive friends and teachers, removing their internet access, destroying their gender-affirming medications. So, I don't really like the phrase gender-affirming. They're sending them to conversion therapists, and they're destroying, like, healthcare.
Destroying healthcare. No, I have to essentialize it further. You're taking this extremely biased source at its word, Katy. If I were to look at something about trans people from the Daily Mail and just rattle everything off of it uncritically, you'd say the same thing about me. But it doesn't work the other way somehow. How so? How is that not ridiculous?
Clothing and pride flags. So they're destroying their like belongings, their clothing. And they're...
I think they feel like ideas are getting put in their heads. I do apologize. Oh, is my radiator called Sebastian? You can call it Sebastian if you want. Anyway, sorry, I was watching this appalling fucking video where we're just taking all of this at face value. No idea what research she's done apart from just this rather biased source, but let's keep going. Sebastian Josh Chu. Okay, there we go. We got a winner.
Pride flags. So they're destroying their like belongings, their clothing.
So yeah, like cutting them off from teachers, friends. It's not easy to do that kind of thing. But like, let's say your kid is getting in with the wrong group that's influencing in a way that you don't like your kid being influenced. As a parent, that might be something you have to do. And like, yeah, they might be putting ideas in your kid's head you don't know. So you have to make a difficult decision. Like, it's not difficult to take the empathetic position. But if you're an ideologue, like Monty here, you're not going to do that, are you? You're not going to do that. And I'd say the same thing to people that automatically call, like parents of trans people that affirm them, like child abusers and stuff. You don't really know because you don't know what the right decision is for that kid, because some kids like persist with their gender dysphoria into adulthood and some don't. So like, I don't know. I try and take the neutral stance on this and understand how difficult it is to be a parent of this. But this person won't.
And their medicine. And he thinks the trauma is the parents doing that, these like abusive things. And not...
See, we're doing the opposite. So on the one side, you've got, if you affirm your child, even though I personally disagree with transgender and, even though I personally disagree with transitioning children, it's still a difficult position either way. So you've got on one side people calling it child abuse if you affirm your kid. You've got people calling it child abuse on the other side if you don't affirm your kid. You know what I mean? So yeah, I can understand the parent's perspective. And I disagree with both sides of that equation, even though I personally am not for transitioning kids. Because I understand that for parents, that must be a fucking nightmare. Like, what do you fucking do in that situation? It's not easy. This person thinks it is easy. Oh, just affirm your child in all cases. They absolutely must be trans. Don't worry about it if they come back at the age of 22. Why did you affirm me? I can't have kids. My body is completely mutilated and I'm not happy. You know what I mean? But we just ignore that possibility. It's nuts. What would Monty advise if your kid's into self-harm and has a bunch of materials promoting self-harm? I mean, she wouldn't categorize like trans and self-harm the same way. But the problem is like these trans kids, they now have a much greater chance of self-harming or trying to commit suicide. And it's not easy to know what the best way to deal with that is. I can say that without having any children, without having a trans kid. Anyway, I don't know how much of this I'm going to last. I'm quite grossed out by this, quite honestly.
Not the kid who's having to experience like finally picking things they feel comfortable in and finally being on the right medicine and having the right balance of hormones.
Like, what if they're going through a phase? And like, I don't know, where are they getting this medicine from, by the way? If the parent isn't signing off on it and is having to destroy it, where are they getting this medication from exactly? Would you want teachers, other kids, giving your kid medicine?
Minds and stuff. And then
Oh, look in the comments, in the chat, should we say, that's kidnapping, that's literally torture. No, it's not. Streeting should know better than that, he's gay. You're homophobic. I can't see what your name is. L Cross or something? You are homophobic. Gay people don't owe you a certain perspective. Sorry, I'm pretty new to all these people. And topics I'm trying to understand and learn. Who is she? This Monty person is a propagandist who thinks that if your child is trans or says that they're trans or is being transitioned behind your back, you need to affirm them in all cases and be okay with it.
Having all that taken away by the people who are meant to love them, the people who, like their family who are meant to bring them up.
The people who are meant to love them. Loving your kid means looking out for them and looking out for what's best for them, not affirming every single thing they do. There's a reason why you have to say no to your kid once in a while, Monty. How do you not fucking know that? Even as a non-parent. Like, I'm not a parent and I know this. How do you not? I don't get it.
And raise them and stuff. And like lots of these kids have nowhere else to go at all. Like, there's a reason that homelessness is way higher for LGBT young people than it is for...
Gay and trans is not the same, and it's annoying when they equate the two. Yep. True.
...for cis, straight young people. It's because of stuff. And like lots of these kids have nowhere else to go at all. Like, there's a reason that homelessness is way higher for LGBT young people than it is for...
Okay, so homelessness for LGBT young people. Yeah, you're probably going to have shitty families that can't accept their kids' gay, trans, whatever status and throw them out. How often do you also get kids that are insisting on something that might not be right for them and the parent doesn't agree, and then they're difficult about it and they leave because of that? So it's not always like the family's fault, and it's not fair to immediately assume it must be. Like, you get some parents of these like LGBT like young people, they end up throwing their kid out because they don't know what else to do. Like, there's this video by someone called Birdie that I've only ever seen reactions to. This is a prime example of someone who seems incredibly entitled and seems to have ended up getting thrown out by their parents because they wouldn't do anything to improve their own prospects. Just wanted to sit at home making art and being on Discord all day or something. I'm going off memory here, so I might not be getting the details correct. But the way they describe it, it's like, if I was your parent, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do either, quite frankly. He's acting as if throwing your kid's stuff out is never acceptable. Yeah, of course it is, sometimes. But it's a normal response for the stuff the parent sees as harmful. Yeah. This person has zero empathy for people that do not think like her. And that is not what we need at all. That is not how you advocate for fucking trans rights. Trans rights means being able to bridge the gap between like so-called cis people and so-called trans people. Not just forcing your perspective on people and expecting them to immediately adopt it as their own. That's nuts. Kids in foster care are overrepresented among trans youth who are already more likely to end up homeless. Yeah, it's tough. I'm not saying like it's a bad thing. Obviously it is. But there's no analysis. There's no intent to like actually understand what the circumstances are. You know what I mean? Why it goes down this way. There's so much to it. And in some cases, yeah, it's going to be the parents thing. In some cases, yeah, it's more going to be the kid themselves. Because some kids are extremely difficult. And it's not easy to know what to do with someone like that. Birdie is in Jar and Cinny. Excuse me. Birdie is in Jar and Cinny Birdie. Yes, the one with like the split dye that made some video about like all their mental health issues and expecting everything for their fucking... expecting everything from everyone and complaining they're not getting it. Like, I've only ever seen reactions to it. I don't think the original is around anymore. If someone has it, please link it on Discord so I can maybe do that one day when I have a long time and when I have content built up. Because it's really crazy. And it illustrates how you can't always just blame the parents. You can't always just immediately, oh, there's a high rate of like LGBT homelessness, must be the parents. That's not necessarily a fair conclusion to come to, especially when you don't even look into it, which someone like this doesn't. They just come to a conclusion and they know that this sycophantic, cult-like audience will affirm every single thing that they're saying. They just agree with everything. Gee, it's a lot worse here in America where they use electric shock, solitary confinement, stuff like whippings act. Does it not bother you then, Jessica Timchak? Does it not bother you then that we use the same term to talk about like, what was it? Therapy? There's just not necessarily affirming straight away everything. I think it's disgusting that you'd like put the two together. And I think you're very close to completing the circle, actually. I hope you think a bit more about this. Where's it short for weasel? Like, how much of it is just insults? Because you know what? You set the tone, Katy. Straight away, you talk about how much a piece of shit he is. You set the tone. Chris the Narc has a good series on Birdie stuff. Yeah, the thing is, I like looking at original stuff. I don't really like getting someone else's like react, and it isn't great content to watch someone else reacting to something, which I accept that I'm doing here, but I think this is important. I think people like Katy Montgomerie need pushing back on, because I think what she is pushing is very harmful and very incorrect in many, many ways.
Cis, straight young people. It's because of groups like this and things like this. Just a month after the investigation was published, Bayswater...
A birdie person as a whole, self-ID is all it takes for me to be oppressed, and because of that, society owes me everything, mindset crystallized. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And yeah, by the way, like I've mentioned this birdie person, I'm not backing it up straight away. I don't have the original to hand. I haven't looked at it myself. But yeah, I mean, I encourage other people to look at like Chris the Narc, Deadwing Dork. Was it, I think it was either Chud or Queeman covered it. I think it might have been Chud Logic. Insane amounts of, like, I mean, that guy's a parent, so he actually understands, you know what I mean? Reacceptionist Chud would say, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Chud Logic watched it. I think that's what I saw. And I saw a bit of, I think Harmful Opinions covered a little bit of it. I need to watch, like, more commentary type people, but I don't watch that kind of stuff on stream because, I don't know, I'm ripping other people's opinions, potentially. I want it to be my own thing because, like, I'm going to miss things that other people see, and people are going to potentially give me shit for, like, missing obvious shit. But at the same time, I think that I probably pick up on things that other people don't notice, you know what I mean? And that's a far better way of doing it. If you're watching a react, you're more likely to just kind of agree with everything they're saying and like take on their opinions instead of thinking for yourself. So that's kind of how I try and do it, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not completely averse to it. Maybe I'll have to one day because I do want to make that point with that birdie video because it clearly illustrates that it's not as cut and dry as people put it out to be.
Support group for the parents, not a support group for the kids. Support group was invited to take part in targeted consultation on an indefinite ban of puberty blockers for trans kids. Like, it's just such a sham. This whole thing is targeted consultation. Support group for the... Just a month after the investigation was...
TBIJ, was that the thing we just looked at? Because it wasn't a good investigation from what I saw. Bureau of Investigative Journal. Yeah, we looked at this. It wasn't a good investigation, in my opinion. I don't think it really said much of anything. It was just taking the opposite stance to them. That's not investigating someone. That's just disagreeing with them. And you're in your right to disagree. But then don't call it an investigation. Like, don't treat it as if it's something worth trusting and that you should just implicitly agree with everything they say. Invited to take part in a consultation. Oh, wow, a parents group. A parents group being invited to take part in a consultation for puberty blockers. Okay. So all we need to know, really, is that this person is trying to make these people out to be far worse than what they are. Nasty, gross, weird. Katy Montgomerie, you're a liar. You are a propagandist. I don't know. Fucking debate me. How about that? Fucking defend your shit sometime. Anytime you want. I think you're disgusting. There we go. Can't be asked anymore.